Concord Show.
And co-host Marine Corps Map, coming to you on Monday and Tuesdays in Studio A, noon to 2 Eastern.
And Studio B on Wednesday nights, 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern, with educational, instructional, information, and situational updates, often with wonderful guests on the current landscape in the U.S. and overseas.
This is a go.
We are with you, side to side, and back to back.
Please join us on Monday through Wednesdays.
As well as other hosts and guests here on Revolution Radio.
We're not gonna take it anymore. That's right, we're not gonna take it anymore. We said we're not gonna take it anymore. That's right, we're not gonna take it anymore.
I'm Reverend Medium Tracy Lockwood, and I'd like to invite you to join me as I discuss life from a medium's perspective. I'll be talking about insights that I've gained through readings, with topics like your guides, angels, animal communication, past lives, our transition, and the afterlife. We'll take a deeper look at the metaphysical meanings of symbols and totems, and I'll give you some practical exercises to help you develop your own natural psychic ability. Join me on From a Medium's Perspective.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Well, it's time to stumble down the road with host Bridgette Lynn Dolgoff and co-host Jannie Vaught as they carry stones, dig holes, and wield their shovels along the way. On Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. This is not a seated event. As they talk, run, stumble, carry, dig, drag, laugh, fight, sing and pray, dance and kick and scream, and oftentimes fall. Hey, is that a stone or a buffalo check? Now, here are your hosts for the next 2 hours on carrying stones and digging holes. But I won't be there.
The hell I won't.
Hey there, everybody. It's, it might be way loud. Let me turn that sucker down. Hey, it's Bridgette Lynn Dolgoff, your host of Carrying Stones and Digging Holes. And I apologize for the background noise, but where I'm at today, they're scraping and painting the house, and there's dogs playing, and the community's kind of come together, so it might be a little bit loud. Anyway, so I had a couple little technical glitches getting on today. And I'm waiting for Jannie Vaught, my co-host, to call me so that I can get her on the show. And she was at her farmer's market that she started in Leno, Texas today, selling her peaches. She had massive, massive peaches, I think, for like the last 3 weeks. So they're way ahead of us in food growing. My lettuce is finally committed to actually growing, but we had, off and on cold, and we had a lot of rain this spring. And I live in the desert, about 4,800 feet elevation, and it can really snow at any time at the base of the Sierra Nevadas and where all the big ski resorts are, including like Squaw Valley. That was an Olympic place at one time where the Olympics was held. So today we have a pretty good show. We're going to have a guy on named Thrice, and he is working on the North America Sustainable Farms campaign and project. And we will give you more information about what he has going on and about him. And so now I'm just waiting for Jannie. Oops, she's going to be dialing in here pretty quick. Oh, let me get that. Here we go. Hold on one second. Ooh, let me see how to get that. Just haven't, I don't know why I'm having all kinds of technical difficulties. You know what? I uploaded the new Skype, and hold on. Let me see if I can get her on. Let me call her. Let me see if I can add her to the call. Hold on. Okay, Jannie? Hello? Jannie? Hold on, I'm trying to call her now. Oh, good. All right, got you on. I have a new Skype, and it works completely different. So anyway, that's where we're at. Okay. Yeah, so it's kind of a little bit confusing. It doesn't say add person, you know, when they're calling in. Anyway, no bother. Okay, so hey everybody, this is Jannie Vaughn in the house, co-host. And also we should probably go through Carrying Stones and Digging Holes radio show. You can find more about us if you go to revolutionradiofreedomslips.com and you look in Studio A schedule. You scroll down, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You'll see a bee flying towards a flower, and that is our show, Jannie and I show. And you can click on that, and you can find out more information about us and bios and stuff like that. Jannie can always be found at Bloom Where You're Planted on Facebook, and she posts a lot of stuff about her little homestead and her farmer's market and all the amazing things that she's doing. And also, while you're on Revolution Radio, you can get our archives. Those are $6 a month. We also have tons of heirloom seeds right now, so you can buy heirloom seed packs, and you can also be funded. We also do have some advertising and banners that is being offered. That's on there as well. There's a link. And if you just feel like you just want to donate, you can go to the funding part of Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, and you can just, you know, add whatever amount that you want. And remember, we are listener supported. So that's where we're at. So hold on one second. Let me see if I can get our guest on. I'm going to see if I can search real quick. Mr. Thrice. I hope I'm saying that right. So let's see if I can get him on. Hold on one second. Jannie, are you still with me?
Yep, I'm listening. I'm sitting here letting you do your thing.
Right, well, I just don't want to, you know, lose anybody.
No, I'm just...
Okay, with the Skype thing. So, let me see what we have here. Let me go here. Let me... hold on one second. Let me get this on here. Let me see if I can get him. Yeah, so they changed it a little bit on the Skype. So I'm trying to find him and connect him on. Very interesting on how this is working out here. Oh, something's going on. Okay,
ooh, we like that. Something's going on.
Something's happening. Okay, so it's moving. Oh no, that's okay. So I've got you. Okay, I've got a better thing here. It wasn't showing me what I needed to see. Hold on I'm just trying to find. I should have. Hold on one second. I'm sorry, people. Maybe Jannie could yak about something while I...
Sure.
Together.
You know, we are in a very droughty, hot state here. I am in Central Texas, kind of the belly button right in the middle, northwest of Austin, in a very small town off a river. And we have had no rain, no measurable rain in a long time. So although it's very humid and we have a lot of moisture in the air, so a lot of us are under water restrictions. I'll use my hose a little that comes out of the river, and I use rainwater catchment, but it's been a very challenging spring to summer. When it started off kind of really nice and wet and the cold, and then we shifted over, and then suddenly it just got hot, extremely hot, and stayed hot in the triple digits, which is kind of unusual for here, with like 80% humidity, melt too. So it has been a really challenge for farmers, growers, ranchers, small urban homesteaders like myself. And we've become very conscious of. There you are.
There we are. Yay!
Hi.
Hi. Well,
Yeah. Hello.
Hi. Skype updated itself and changed itself a little bit, so I hadn't used it for the radio show yet, so it was a little bit more complicated getting everybody on. But could you tell us your name just so that we get your name right?
Yeah, my name is Thrice Saita.
Great. What nationality is that?
Oh, Saita is currently Sicilian and North American for the most part, but it's kind of like a Smith of Sicily, and it's over 2,000 years old. And when it was before that, it's like ancient Persian, Mediterranean. It's pretty old.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was more like, Persian, Mediterranean kind of a name. So
yeah, it's very well traveled. We actually have cousins in Greece called Attius, which is the name backwards.
Oh, that's a trip.
Yeah,
I love that. Okay, so my co-host that you haven't met yet is Jannie Vaught. Jannie, this is Thrice.
Hi, Thrice. Nice to meet you.
Hi, it's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, no, we're excited. We love people who are like thinking about growing food and how to grow it and how to, create community and make sure everybody gets fed, everybody, wins, and the seeds get saved from the bad guys. And we make our own seeds and we share our own seeds and food goes everywhere. So so Thrice has a project called the North American Sustainable Farms. And his website is nasf.life. And you can go on there. And one of the things that I really liked, and then I'll let Thrice talk, was that on the shop page, he has about 6 different varieties of hanging mushrooms that you can grow in your house, or if you're on the road, you can grow them in your RV, or, wherever you can hang them and make them. You can have mushrooms. So that's super cool. But Thrice, give us a background. Give us a little bit of a background about yourself, and how you got to where you're at, and what's motivated you to kind of move into the sustainable farms arena.
Well, honestly, I did not grow up a farmer. I didn't grow up in agriculture. I grew up a regular honor student, supposed to go to college in California. I'm from California. And something happened to me when I was 16. I got in a sports injury. And from there, life just didn't seem to make sense. Just when it came to the whole social psychological structure of high school, and I started working at Applebee's and then just starting to interact with adults, I was kind of like, oh, as you get older, nobody knows what we're doing still. Like, it's all just the blind leading the blind for the most part. And it's up to you to really figure out how you want to lead yourself and who you are. Nobody's going to tell you that. You can't really be sold a bill of goods, or else you're just kind of following somebody else's path. And luckily, I kind of got to see that early on. And I ended up with some health issues as I grew. From that original thing, I kind of got into the study of life. And then as I got health issues, I then got into the study of like how to stay alive when it comes to eating and the whole balance of why is it that when you walk into a convenience store, you're bombarded with a bunch of colors and fun font in order to psychologically manipulate you to buy food that's just empty and filled with chemicals that actually hurt you more than help you. Just all of that just really overwhelmed me for a while. And then I really just, because of my family wanting to provide something, one, for my kids. So I don't want to become some, multimillionaire. I only want to at least create something that I can pass on to my immediate family, my children, and those around me. I just really felt that feeding people was something that I could accomplish while producing a profit and using sustainable and organic agriculture from what I've learned and studied. And I'm not like some PhD in this, and I don't, I love microbiology and quantum physics, but unfortunately I haven't gotten to go to school to actually receive a doctorate or anything, which is my goal. But at this time, I'm just on the ground. I'm just moving, and I've been working as hard as I can to gather this information. And that's where, if you look at the website, I'm really appreciative of all the support we've gotten and what everybody, the feedback. It's been very positive, and people are very impressed. We have a digital virtual tour on there for the indoor community farm centers, and that's a whole nether rabbit hole when it comes down to what we're doing. So it's a very complex story to say like how I really got into all this, but like everybody, there's something in my life that made me kind of shaken up and like, okay, something's wrong here, and that seems to be the trend that's happening. And for me, I just felt, agriculture is such a small niche. I could get into that and really help, because that's all I want to do. Is I want to try to give back to the community around me that has helped me to grow in the ways that I've grown and learning. Because honestly, like, my main thing is I'm a student of life. I love learning about our human existence and what's really going on, all the different cultures. So then that's, I've met so many beautiful people, and when it comes down to the end of the day, when they have health problems, when they can't access food because of money, what is the bottom line? Okay, we need a better agricultural system. So that's where I'm doing my best to come in and be like, hey, this is what I'm throwing on the table. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
great. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, so Jannie, you want to talk to Thrice a bit or add something or?
Yeah, you have 3 Californians online here. It's kind of interesting. Wow. Yeah, I was born in Central Valley.
Oh, wonderful.
I was born in Bakersfield, and our family were farmers in cotton, grapes. They grow Big Red and watermelons, and did that for a couple of generations. And then my father moved us to Southern California, Buena Park. And he opened Knott's Berry Farm with the Knott family, and then went to work, had the first restaurant at Disneyland. I mean, this was when California was rural. I mean, I'm 65. And so, I mean, we rode our horses around Southern California. Can you imagine? On Beach Boulevard, you know what I'm saying? And how beautiful it was. Now it's just overgrown and over automated and everything. And to me, I haven't been there in years, but my first impression was they had cut down all the trees because it was a massive tree grove for my generation. And I find it very interesting. Bridgette, too, comes from California. She can give you a bit of hers. I've jumped around a lot in my life, traveled a lot, college, marched against the war, did a U of O thing, and lived in a commune in Oregon, and, done a lot of experiences in my life. But for me, I've always gardened or farmed somehow, always. Probably never stopped. And my family didn't never stop either. My father was a chef. And it's interesting how we progress. You're absolutely right. We grow. And we're not, and I went to my uncle when I was a young teenager and said, you need to stop using chemicals and go back to organics. And he looked at me like I knew that I knew the word. And, his response through tears was, we can't afford to make a profit on our farms anymore by going organic.
Right.
And so, but all that has shifted out now, as our friend Greg Shane says. It combs out. He talks about the corn, and it combs out the GMOs and the manipulated things. That nature has a way of taking over. And nature, how I see it, nature actually guides us in our path once we really tune in to our Mother Earth and nature. She really starts guiding us. And it's our next generation. You're absolutely right. What are we doing? What are we leaving behind for our kids and our grandkids, ourselves, and our friends and our neighbors all around us? What kind of impact, what kind of footprint are we leaving? And so some of those big questions came up for me, and I got more active, really active. I started seed saving, and I started farmers market. I had a seed library in our little town. I know I'm a pain in everybody's rear because I just don't stop. And they would like to stay in their quiet little, this is how we used to do it mode. Well, that's not working. That doesn't work how we used to do it. And so, okay, so what's the big question? How do we do it now? I don't have a big picture. I don't have a plan. I'm a permaculturist. I did my design course just recently, so I was gone from the show for quite a bit. I was in class. So what does it look like? It's for me, that's a big question because it keeps evolving. It kind of is like kneading dough. You flop it over and you knead it a little more, and you flop it over again, you knead it a little more, and it just keeps changing, you know? So we have put out a call to the spirit world, if you will, in a good way, asking for the people to come on the show to share this change, this shift. How do we do this? And let's come together. And so here's another one. Here's Thrice. It's really awesome, and I'm glad to meet you.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. I really do appreciate that.
The other thing, too, is volume keeps going crazy. One thing, you know, one of my friends, Gord, my friend Gord in Canada, you know, one of the things that he said today on Skype to me, he said, you know, where do you find these people, you know, that come on your show? And I feel like, you know, we showcase the unsung heroes, you know, the people who are actually doing the work, not just talking about it anymore, or, you know, what's needed, but have like stuck their foot in the door and said, okay, I don't really know what this is going to look like, but I'm just going to follow the path and see where it takes me. And so it's always amazing for me, you know, to start seeing. And, you know, the other thing that just blows my mind. So Jannie is in Texas. I'm getting ready to go down to Texas and New Mexico to see everything that's going on, because I feel like I'm left out of the loop. There's all this stuff, amazing stuff going on in New Mexico and Texas, and you're in Texas right now, Thrice, aren't you? Or you were, but yes, we also have. Yeah, we have 2 more people at the end by the end of this month that are coming on that are doing large-scale land restoration, you know, like meadows and stuff for retaining water and getting more groundwater, and also to stop the flood and decay of topsoil. So it's just amazing what you guys have going on in Texas. Like, maybe it's the place to be. That's what I'm kind of thinking. So,
I did not know I would be landing in Texas. I have been to Texas. I'm not a Texan. I have been here. We're pushing our 10th year in our little homestead, and a historical, you know, German-made stone house with a great big, you know, bunch of land around us, and some great neighbors, and all ranchers, farmers, gardeners. Really is amazing. And when I first arrived to Texas to visit some friends, it was a big aha moment. I was like, what? Oh my gosh, look at this water. Look at this river. Look at this oak trees. I was like really smitten, and I got the bug. You know, but people don't realize Texas has every kind of environment in the world. We got the coast, we got woodlands, we got desert, we got West Texas, we got North Texas with their tornadoes. We have the belly button where I am, and it's all really, really diverse. But yet there's this on-running thing through Texas, and it's about the land. It's about the soil. And even this is not new for some of our farming friends and our carbon cowboy friends. They've been doing no-till for a long time. They've been doing water restoration, rainwater catchment, cycling their cattle. You know, a lot of people don't, but they're catching up with it because what they're seeing is the bottom line. They're seeing their profits increase, and how they can, without a whole lot of work, because the other way is a whole lot of work, that you can plant with native grasses and sustain your pastures and don't let them get taken over by prickly pear cactus and all that. And you can have a nice small herd of cattle and move them around efficiently, and it really is. And the new permaculture movement is huge here. I mean, just like everybody is in the permaculture.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah.
Okay, so
Are you a permaculturist, Thrice?
I'm not, honestly, again, I'm not any kind of affiliation or any kind of accreditation when it comes to this field. I don't have any. I personally, just like how I study life, I like to collaborate information and find the best solutions out of that. So for me, it's sustainability, anything that's sustainable. And that's something that I've talked to some people about, some really interesting topics where it's like you find out information where something's kind of misleading, like glyphosate. Finding out that glyphosate inside of the genetic structure is how it gets locked into soil for 20 years. But when you spray it on the ground directly, it only stays for 10 days. Like, that's like a huge thing that I did not realize. And that's like an important piece of data when it comes to measuring risk versus, reward, or risk versus benefit. So that's where analyzing something like that for me and finding the sustainability in it. But it's like, I don't want to use glyphosate at all. It's just, but being able to acknowledge, because there are people who are going to use it. How do you amend that? What is the risk? If people are trying to ask me to consult on a piece of property of whether or not it's farmable, this was what was grown before. Those are the factors that's going to regulate that. So that's what you need to know. So when it comes to permaculture, I feel that it's a beautiful practice. I just think that there's so many different things. I don't know where the line is drawn. So that's why I say sustainability. Because I love hugelkultur, aquaponics, hydroponics, aeroponics. That's the whole point of our indoor farming centers. There's so many different things when it comes to this new age of agriculture. My biggest thing is the trend of it and the financial backing. And the financial backing's here and now, but the trend's not there. And so I'm praying that I can actually kind of, jump in and be a part of that, because that's what we have to do in the capitalist society. We have to find our niche. We have to find where we fit in to fill our purpose, so we benefit the community. And that's what we're all about, is community. And it's been a hard journey. I'm not, again, I am only a worker on the ground. I have not had 100% success rate in this. It's been such a challenge. We haven't had our own properties. It's been working on other people's properties, dealing with either litigation because we found out information that the owners didn't know. And so we have, because they're not in this field, and then we find out we have to stop, or there's some type of issue with just miscommunication. And that comes down to community. We don't really have in our society and our culture a standard of how to do this, of how to move forward, where we're focusing on amending all of the land, where the land isn't just about, cut and have a lawn and, set up your little ornaments and spray so the weeds and the bugs are gone. And, that general, I grew up in that. I grew up in that, everybody came at their time of the month, did their services, you pay them, you go to work so that way you can pay your services, and, you're not in tune with your outside area. And I did have, my mother had her roses and she had her things that were her, touch of nature, and she was into nature. She came from that generation. But when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, it's it's just culture. It's not my parents' fault. It's not, the individual's fault, as it is all of our responsibility. So I go long-winded there, but I just get passionate. I really do enjoy this, and I'm really appreciate, again, you guys having me on.
No, and it's good that you're kind of multifaceted in the industry, which I think has to help, because a lot of times you have to step in and kind of take a little bit of a legal stand. And I've learned how to do that myself, and help people. Okay, so one of the things, and so just so that we can, put a definition out there about a couple of things, and you kind of mentioned the different avenues, but you're on your website, you're using, because a lot of people don't sometimes understand terminology, and a lot of us are actually making new vocabulary in terms as we go along, because there isn't anything really to support a proper vocabulary in the new way that we're moving forward, right? So one of the things that you had on there was polyculture farming. And so I'll just ask you some questions about that. So what does that mean? I know that it means, multi types of creating new culture, polyculture, creating new cultures in farming. But you kind of mentioned, if you could talk about that a little bit, and then go back over the list of the different types of things that are kind of embraced in the indoor farming. Like one was aquaponics, and you had a few other more. So could you talk about that, the polyculture farming, and then the other list of things that fall underneath that?
Yes, so, definitely. Basically, I believe you guys are familiar with Dr. Richard Allen Miller.
Yeah,
Richard's good friend.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And basically, one of the things that we've even touched on in an interview was this concept of polyculture farming, and he calls it not community. It's crop. Oh man, I'm spacing. Okay, I didn't have this written down, so I do apologize. But basically, it's kind of the concept of food foresting or gilding within permaculture. And it's just another way of describing it. So again, like you said, polyculture, it represents a multifaceted system of different species of plants, different types of plants, and then putting those in kind of a relationship situation, like as far as positioning and also as far as just in the chemical relationships, because some provide certain aspects to the soil, some take away certain aspects of the soil. So it's kind of just another word for permaculture, and that's what I mean, why we say sustainable.
Right.
And that's kind of why I try to use the different words, because I myself want to help bring awareness to what you exactly are talking about, that we're in a new phase of agriculture, and we need to acknowledge...
Just the word sustainability has multiple definitions, depending on who you're talking to. They might consider that they recycle plastic and tin as they're sustainable. Mm-hmm. And there's someone else who, does, off-grid or, it's very interesting, but I see it, each one has a drop of this consciousness in them, which will go in and break away and start growing, as nature does. It's like little seeds. And at first I couldn't quite get my head around, because I'm a writer, I'm a columnist, and I like definitions, and I have to vet my material and verify and back and look and whatever that means. Makes everybody happy, the editors. And so, I kept waffling around on some of these definitions, and then I realized, it's just fluid. It's just growing. Exactly. Mm-hmm. It's changing, and each one of us has our niche, our part, our twig, our 5-leaf plant, whatever how your brain wants to put it all together, but we're all building up, again, the web of life, right?
Exactly.
We're rebuilding the sacred hoop.
Exactly.
We're rebuilding it back together. Yeah, it's awesome.
No,
and I have to tell you, I know very little about, I have experienced aquaponics, and I have a friend who does it and does fish and uses the fish off the water and raises veggies and everything, and I've kind of helped and watched, how he does pH and everything. And I really respect it, because it's really, you have to be dialed in to some science to do it.
Yes.
It's just not a willy-nilly thing. No, seriously,
Yes, and that's, again,
just,
why
I'm going to get a thing I fill up some water and put some fish in it. No, that doesn't work. So there is, and with great respect for those who have developed this, they have a passion and they have a vision for it, and I just think it's wonderful, and I hope you kind of bring me on down the path a little, that I can absorb some more information on what you do. It would be wonderful. By the way, I love mushrooms. I want to grow some mushrooms.
Okay, well, he has them on his shop that you can go and buy a bag and cultivate your own hanging in your kitchen. Okay, so okay, give me a few of the things that you talk about that fall under, polyculture farming. So one would be aquaponics, and then you named a few other ones. Could you tell us?
Not quite. That's kind of those are two different things. So with polyculture farming, the way that I'm using it is in sense or in relation to food foresting. So for me personally, one of the things that I want to test out, that I'm just kind of like a freelance student and I like to just study things. And so one of the things that I want to test is this concept of, you know, how you have woodlands and forests and savannas. There's a really big concept that's the natural environment of the planet, is in as far as in lush, sustainable areas that aren't tropical increased forestation. But so inside these woodland areas, you have these savannas, and there's a take on the history of our country where actually the early explorers, that's what they found, was a bunch of these savannas. So polyculture for me is really imitating these savannas, creating gilding, but in more of a savanna or plain type setting. And then utilizing food foresting as a form of permaculture, creating a woodland kind of setting, or manipulating the woodlands that already exist, and then creating savanna-like areas or polyculture-based areas around housing or communal developments.
Okay. Yeah, so for me, there's two things, just, you know, in vocabulary, in case people are listening, because I always try to work with the language so people can understand, because everybody has kind of a different point of view or languaging, or when they're getting into it, they want to have, you know, keywords they can search on the internet. So if it was unmanipulated, for me, if it was an unmanipulated environment that was restored back to nature, that I restored back to nature, I would call it more like wild crafting, right? Where I'm crafting the, you know, the wild to come back, all the medicinal plants and grasses and whatever else for that area. But if I was doing like a food forest, it would be more kind of on the farming end, right? Where I'm cultivating, restructuring or renovating land to a natural thing, and then using a lot more you know, mainstream types of foods that you would find, like peaches and things like that. Because I think a lot of the fruit trees are not native. So I've just been getting into this whole native thing, right? I've been going out and collecting seeds in the desert because we have this guy named Greg Schoenon who grows the native seeds for the native people. And is a manager of a native seed bank. And so we have these conversations about the native seeds, right? So is it wild? Is it wild? Is it indigenous? Is it ancient? Is it, you know, heritage and creating environments that have that? Or is it creating a, you know, and fixing an environment that needed to be fixed, that it's going to be better, but putting into it things that were not indigenous to the Americas, you know, like so like an Asian pear tree is not really indigenous, right? And so I'm kind of like learning on how that you can build both kinds of environments and also with the seeds. But this is the thing about the seeds. And so Greg sent me a whole bunch of native seeds, and I've grown them side by side with some heirloom seeds. And I can tell you the heirloom seeds are not doing well, and the plants are not doing well. And even though the soil is amazing because I have little mushrooms growing in it, and for the desert, that's a big deal. But the native seeds are just, bam, they hit the ground and they were strong and steady, and they're huge. I mean, just like, as far as like if I was going to, you know, food forest, but I was going to wildcraft, you know, I could definitely put native corn in there. I could put native beans. I could put a lot of other things that were indigenous. And there's a lot of native people who are working on this, and people in this movement who are growing these ancient seeds in order to get more native people in their hands, returning some of their seeds back to them so that they can actually wildcraft their environment. So I'm just putting that out there. I'm not trying to be pushy or controversial or anything like that. But for me, this is kind of like where I'm at and what I'm learning. And at the point of where do I want to mix and match? You know, what kind of environments would be better for that? You know, having a more wildcrafted environment would be more for the land and the animals that would cross through it. You know, doing a food forest with plants that are not quite indigenous to the area would be more for kind of like the people, would help the environment, you know, but it would actually be more for people, you know, to eat and consume from. So just some different thoughts. But anyway, I wanted to ask you again, so you were talking about a whole bunch of different now that we have polyculture farming straightened out. No, I'm just kidding. You were talking about there was a few things that you had been interested in, and you kind of went off on a little list earlier. One of them was aquaponics on the top of the list, and then you mentioned a couple other ones. And I'm interested in that because I heard something I hadn't heard before. So I want to see if you can go back through your little list so I can catch it.
Right. That was hugelkultur probably.
Yeah.
But basically, I just wanted to retouch on the polyculture thing. So when it comes down to the polyculture and the whole wildcrafting thing, if you start to look into the kind of ancient and slightly forbidden archaeology that's really kind of bubbling to the surface right now, there's a huge speculation of us being pretty dang old. And the whole us traversing the planet, like us, I say humanity in general, and the whole traversing the planet thing and transferring planets, or plants, and not transferring planets across the planet. That'd be a little weird. But transferring plants across countries. So when it comes down to the whole wildcrafting thing versus polyculture or food foresting, I 100% respect what you're saying. I come very much from a native respect aspect, and that's all the culture that I really try to focus on and study as my main core of who I am is my native traditions from my ancestry as being a mixed human. And when it comes down to the end of the day, though, we are I feel like we're the caretakers of the garden. And so it's up to us to sustainably make the I don't want to say judgment because it's not really our decision. I'm a huge proponent of morphic resonance theory, which I'm not sure if that's something y'all have talked about on this show. And the whole concept of collective consciousness and it being proved by quantum physics that we are all electromagnetic beings. There's a whole concept of alpha, beta, gamma, delta, theta brainwaves and how it interacts with everything around us, including the technologies. I'm a huge nerd when it comes to that stuff. So I apply that into agriculture. And so for me, is I really do feel like it's about you feeling the environment. It's about you getting in touch with the soil. If you touch the soil and you rub it on your skin, you're interacting with that microbiome. If you eat food directly from the soil and you don't wash it off all the time, you're interacting with that microbiome. Your microbiome is over 300 trillion cells, pieces of consciousness that are not your body. That's inside of you, inside of the tunnel that goes through you. Like that, it is literally you're a ship. You're a planet. You're this universe for these trillions of life forms. And when you learn to interact with the earth around you, that's when you can listen. And so wildcrafting to me is a extreme that is necessary right now for certain. But the reality is I think that there's kind of a blurred line that needs to be addressed when it comes to like farming versus not destroying the land. and we need to know that we never need to go to destroying the land anymore, and that's what we've been doing, and we need to get rid of that. It needs to just be farming and wildcrafting, like you said, that there's a difference. And in that gray area, though, there always needs to be that respect of like no matter what, we're not farming to keep the wildlife out and away in a sense of to destroy the wildlife. You know, you should not be attacking the wildlife. If some things eat the plants, it's usually a sign from Mother Nature that those things need food in that area, and there's ways to feed that. I mean, there's the Garden of Eden practices. There's all sorts of permaculture practices where it's talking about working with the earth instead of against it, and it's still a form of farming. You're producing food for humans. So I just wanted to touch on that.
Yeah, no, these are conversations and topics, you know, that I think. One of the things I tell Janie and other people always want to know why I do a radio show for free, right? You know, for basically to educate, you know, like the populace. And the answer is always that I do these shows because of the type of conversations that I have, you know, the learning, the education, working in community, a lot of these other things. So, you know, sometimes it's a little, I guess, narcissistic why I do my show, why I like to do these kinds of shows. And so, and there's always this like expansion that starts to happen, you know, when we do start having these conversations. And so there was this moment on one of the shows that really, really kind of unraveled me, and I'm still pretty unraveled around, you know, native seeds. And it was a show that we had Greg Schoen on, who, and I'm just putting this out there because it's such a it's such an astronomical quantum physics, thing, right? That so many people in this arena don't understand about native seeds, right? So one of the things that came up with the seeds is we're talking about the corn, and and Jannie, I'm going to let Jannie talk about it because she knows about it, but I'm just going to, because it's so exciting, and it's been like a huge transmission of energy for me to really change a lot of how I'm farming and my focus of farming and incorporating, all the other stuff that I have going on into it. But the moment that really shattered me was, in a good way, was the moment that on our show they started talking about the chin corn. And the chin corn basically is corn that the native people had and took care of, that when you turn the seed over on its side, it has a code. It actually has a barcode in it because it came from another planet, so to speak, and was given to the people to actually heal the earth when it needed to be healed. And in some cultures, these native people would put this code of their own seed onto their chins, and that's why it was called the chin corn. So when we're dealing with some of these old seeds, we're dealing with something that probably even Greg has said we couldn't even wrap our minds around. So, Jannie, do you want to talk about that? Because you know more.
Totally. Right. Yes.
It's just something I thought.
Yeah, the chins are. They tried to breed them out. You realize, with their monoculture yellow, only yellow. And Greg and I were just having a conversation how some invasives have come into the native corns, and you're seeing more yellow kernels. Because of cross-pollination, because it's wind-pollinated. And people not being sovereign with their seeds, not being careful, and not taking care about how they plant it, when they plant it, and how they take care of it. And when you learn to read, and each chin corn has lines on it. It might be pale with a dark red lines. And all native corn, with every kernel with a different color. That's how you read the corn. There's your genetic barcodes that are coming in. And the women would tattoo lines, and Alaskan women also tattooed lines down for a different reason, but they did lines down their chins. They tattooed lines down their chins. Is that they were carrying the genetic codes even in their own body. Just like you were talking about, that you eat this and it comes into your own body. But that was trying to be pushed out. But we've been returning it back and returning these striped corns and these multicolored. Greg started with Jim corn, or it was originally called rainbow corn through White Eagle, the native man in Oklahoma. And it is really absolutely, when somebody gets that part, that we are not in control. And one thing Greg always tells me, you just can't take one batch of corn and only take from that corn and then replant it. You get inbreeding. You weaken the corn. You need to have two people grow the corn, and that all dances. It all pollinates and mixes up, and it does its happy thing. Then you take some of the best of your corn and the best of their corn, and you stir it all up, and that's what you plant the next time. That's how you keep it strong. And it goes with all things, how we talk, how we think, how we don't block each other because of our political or our religious aspirations. That's been horrible. It's blocked so much that people can't talk anymore, and that we need, again, bring that mix and that wonderful flavoring, if you will. And then we see robust, as you're seeing with your corn, all of a sudden you see a robust, healthy, vital seed corn, it's just full of life, and it wants to grow. It's not been manipulated to grow. It doesn't have a pattern in it that it has to grow. This has multiple generational, hundreds and hundreds of generations, and it hits the ground, and it gets its moisture, and it breaks out, and you see this robust. And we were laughing, because for those of us who are into corn, A happy day is when the corn breaks the ground, man. That's a celebration. That's time for ceremony for us when the corn breaks the ground. And a lot of it was, and I'm taking too much time, sorry, but it is making sure that and here's another word, sovereignty. Sovereignty can be with a lot of different things, but when we take on a seed, we take on the responsibility of keeping it. And we're the caretakers. We're not just, a casual observer. Mm-hmm. We are deeply concerned and involved, especially for onto the next generation, of how we maintain our seed and the viability of the seeds and the trueness of it. And the ability to one that is not doing good to say thank you, bless it, and let it go, and feed it to the chickens and put it in the compost pile. You know, there's a little toughness in this. You don't just let everything be. You're very conscious. And what you're talking about, too, it's for Bridget and I and a lot of other women, farmers, we have a thing we call intuition. And men have it, too. We all have it. And some of us just have not woken up deeply that gut. Boy, when that first happens, you need to pay attention. It's really important. There's something coming through and something telling you something. And I intuitively garden. I stay within the things of my growing area and the native. And then I also research, and then I'm like, is this really native? Or did this blow in from 5 states to the east? You know what I'm saying? So, it's a big mix.
Yes. Yeah.
And nature does what nature does. The wildlands will rewild as they want to.
Right.
And even my garden will grow or not grow as it wants to. It's a lesson teaching me as an observer and as a participant. That's a shift. I'm not standing over there with my shovel and my hoe beating into submission. I am just a small part of this process. And that's really, for me, that's where I want to be in growing my little urban homestead food forest. If a plant says, I want to come and be with you, and I'm like, really? Where do you want to be? I want to grow over there. Okay, let's go over there. Let's make you a place to live. And they will be vital and amazing and grow like crazy. But when I don't listen, it's a waste of time. You know, it really is. So I think we're all getting it, if you will. We're all finally getting that aha moment, and it's happening faster. It's happening faster than I've lived 65 years, 4 lifetimes on this planet, only 4, and what I see in this life is that it's happening much faster, which might have taken a long years to get things figured out. It's happening on a moment, in a twinkling of an eye, and that of an eyelash. This information's coming in, and part of it is what we're talking on. These vast wireless tools that are connecting us all, because I don't have to travel 4 states away to have a conversation with Bridget. Yes. I could be sitting having a cup of coffee and communicate with her and you and multiple people. And as long as we stay within our hearts and our consciousness and know that our languages are different and our definitions are different, we're moving forward. And that is what is so exciting about what we're doing right now. It's exciting.
I have to be the timekeeper, guys. So we're coming into the top of the hour commercials at 56 till, and the commercials will go to about 1 or 2 after. So make sure you come back. Make sure you use the restroom if you need to, get another cup of coffee, get a snack, and come back. And so we're going to, if you want to help Janie and I, to help continue our working, you can donate to us on PayPal, consciousnessofelconomics@gmail.com. We could always use the extra moolah. Janie is always taking in little farm animals that need a new home and need to be fed. So help us to do good work that we're doing, getting native seeds and everything else passed around. Also, Thrice has the North America Sustainable Farms, and that's NASF.LIFE. And that's the website. And he's also got a funding campaign to do his work. And when we get back, we're going to ask Thrice about the kind of the foundation of his project, which the focus is on unused retail areas, the education sector of his project, and also sorry, they're screaming in the background, cottage industry and workspaces. So we're going to come back and talk to him about all that kind of stuff. And pick his brain on those ideas. So, and we're getting ready to go to commercial. And I'll just give Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. This is the Carrying Stones and Digging Holes radio show with your host, Bridgette Lynn Dolgoff and Jannie Vaught. And today our guest is Thrice. All right, so it's going to kick off any minute.
Thank you again.
Yeah, so we're coming back.
All right.
Interview. Bye.
All right, hang in there. Go use your things. Whoop.
Yes, go use your thing.
Go use your thing. Well, you know, if you want to snack.
Yeah,
else.
that thing.
Yes. To come on. So anyway, I'll just keep talking until we go to commercial.
Okay, keep talking.
Yeah. All right. So in the future, we have. We're going to have Brian Hummel on again, and maybe we're not going to have a commercial. All right, well, you know what? I don't know if we're going to have a commercial or not. So, okay. So, all right, you just got to wing it, fly by the seat of your pantyhose. Okay, so.
I'm glad I wore my pantyhose today.
Yeah!
Yes! Yeah!
Right? No, just kidding. Okay. But let me just get this out real quick. So in the near future, in the next, by the end of this month, we're going to have Brian Hummel back on, who is doing large-scale land restoration in wildcraft ways. So he's going to come back on and talk to us about stuff. Oh, there it goes. Be back. All right.
There it is. Bye.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
This is Barbara DeLong, host of Nightlight Radio, inviting you to join me on a cosmic journey, exploring a metaphysical montage of spiritual material, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between, including spiritual readings for those who seek enlightenment. Let Nightlight provide you with equal measure of light, love and laughter, insight, wisdom, and inspiration. Monday nights, 10 to 12 p.m. Eastern, right here on Studio B, Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
All right, everybody, we are back. All right, get right about there. That's pretty good. Oh, my volume is. Hold on. There. All right, can you hear me? My volume's kind of like freaking out. It's like going to extremes and then going down. But hey, it's technology. So what are you gonna do? All right.
This magic tool.
Yeah, so Bridgette Lynn Dolgoff and Jannie Vaughn, hosts of Carrying Stones and Digging Holes radio show on Revolution Radio. If you just tuned in. All right. Anyway, so our guest today is Thrice, and we're going to go ahead and continue our conversation with him. And I noticed on his website today that part of his project is to utilize unused retail areas. So, Thrice, would you like to talk a little bit about that? Are you there? Thrice?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, I think he's still here.
Unmute your phone.
Oh, maybe. Thrice, is your phone muted?
I am here.
Oh, okay, great. Hey, so we wanted to talk to you about on your website how you came about to using an idea of unused retail areas as kind of the foundation of your indoor growing education community centers. So do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I actually, give me 1 second. I totally made the mistake of taking too big of a bite.
Oh, okay. No worries. All right, I'll talk. Okay, so Thrice is going to talk to us about unused retail areas that is on his website that he's campaigning for, a project that he wants to build all over. Okay, so go ahead and talk to us about unused retail areas and how you came across that idea.
Well, I came across that idea while eating lunch. No, I'm just kidding. Basically, it comes from food deserts. So I looked into why do food deserts exist. And it came down to local economics, crime rate, all the fun factors of, why places leave communities. And then what did that leave was retail spaces. So it kind of just, it wasn't like I had some aha moment. It was just kind of like, why is nobody, what, like, what is going on here? And I saw this project that's going on with Elon Musk's brother. I think his name's Kendall. But he's one of the, they're the guys who opened PayPal. And so he took some of his money and is investing in students and young adults in New York, I believe it is, where inside of like a parking lot area, they have shipping containers that they are using for indoor growing. They're doing vertical growing systems, very efficient. They're using the new LED technology for lighting. It's amazing stuff. So basically kind of taking from that concept and taking from the idea of there's all these empty retail spaces, it's like, why are we not doing something with that? And that's where it came from. We are on the ground. We've been trying to do chicken farming and mushroom farming, and I've been learning a lot, going through different experiences. We've raised meat for ourselves already. We've given some meat away and sold some meat. It hasn't been completely successful because we've had to really focus on building our own financial foundation outside of farming because we don't have our own property. We don't have already a savings to develop a property, and then we don't have the rights to a property, so we can't just. So it's been like a 5 to 6 year journey. It's been pretty up and down, but it's been amazing. We've learned a lot, and at this point, this was just one of those things that kind of came along with it. Is I saw this information and I was like, why? Oh, no, like why is this not something somebody's doing? This needs to be done. And from there, instead of doing the regular farming, just being a farm, evolved the concept of becoming a farming / agricultural organization where we act as more of a network. One, connecting community to farmers, but also connecting farmers to future farmers and creating a kind of agricultural crowdfunding platform in the center of that, to where as a community, being countries and the world, we begin to actually push more funding towards that 25% of the population that actually wants to feed us sustainably. So that's kind of, again, hand in hand where that all came from. And it's pretty in-depth project when it comes down to everything that's going to be inside of it. But the real goal is just community-centered agriculture. Just when it comes down to classes, events, food in general, and also a place to buy the food. So we want to really feature the local farmers' food. We don't want to come in and take over the farms. We want to really bring, the whole of the community together, from the people growing to the food to who really need the food.
So basically building, indoor and what we call urban farming centers, which are in cities, and bringing all those kind of components and aspects to one location. So people have like a support system to get good food, grow food, learn about food, learn about other things, maybe even health or whatever else, nutrition.
Right.
That's good. Awesome. I always take
Right.
all kinds of notes. So I had to write down that Kindle Musk thing because I didn't know he had a brother, but I know a lot about Elon, so it's good.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so another thing too I saw on your website was you had an area we have. So I'm not affiliated with the Burning Man, and I'm kind of on the negative side about Burning Man because it environmentally destroyed a large desert ecosystem. So but some of the things that have come out of Burning Man, like one of the things we have in Reno that helps to support artists and cottage industry, is this place called The Generator. So I kind of, when I was reading about, the cottage industry and workspace part of your plan, I thought about the Generator that we have here in Reno. A lot of people that make all their art to take out there come here early, and then they build it all at the Generator, to take it out to Burning Man in the Black Rock Desert, because that's where I live. I live in Reno. So, so you want to talk to us a little bit about, like the, coming to the idea that people need a place to maybe work on their cottage industries and creating, be able to create workspaces. And are those spaces going to be within the same unused retail area? Like, will it all cohabitate in one big area?
That 100%. Like, that is exactly the whole plan. Basically, again, everything is kind of naturally evolving when it comes to this. And what came out of the necessity of the investors and the municipalities themselves is that it's costing them money. So if we can come in and prove that this is a successful model, we have one municipality that's actually really interested up in Illinois that we're going to be going out there here soon to actually meet with some people and sit down when it comes to, there's an investment firm involved as well as the municipality itself, because those are the only people who own the properties at this point. And this is all over the place. Is people are literally just having to pay back taxes, and it's detriment to the economy when it comes down to these individual companies and cities, but also to the public, because there's no development at all happening. So that's really the focus of shopping malls or shopping centers. Is yes, it would be great to do a giant indoor farm inside of like an old Walmart or an old retail space by itself. The issue is we're not focused on becoming a multi-million-dollar farming farm itself. We want to have our own farm areas and utilize land for farming so we can help offset things that aren't being produced in different areas, but our focus is promoting local farmers. That's really what we want to focus on. So when it comes down to it, not only focusing on the farmers, but you got to focus on the community so they can buy the food. So right. Hand in hand, not all farmers are going to create jam. Not all farmers are going to want to make bacon from the processed pork. So there has to be that middleman to then incur even more development of the economy, and that's really where that comes into focus. Is instead of restoring economy to the area and then allowing the investors and the municipalities then be like, okay, let's go ahead and put in a McDonald's. Like, no. Our goal is, if we're going to come in, we want them already thinking about bringing in community-oriented, sustainable practices, and that's from regular work and everyday stuff when it comes down to sourcing materials for making clothes, which is actually something that is a way that we're doing to support project and other projects that we're working with is we have a website for merchandise and apparel, and that's something we want to get into is organic clothes production and basically creating that network for that as well. So it's just, again, it's focused on creating sustainable systems that better communities and also create a network that we all feel a little more safe. Not so much safe as in like you're not going to get robbed, but more or less economically safe. Like you're not worried about losing your job all the time because
or starving to death, or your family starving to death because Monsanto owns all the seeds, right? So,
and you know, I try not to knock on.
The M word. The M word.
Yeah, I was gonna say I try not to knock on too many big doors right now while I'm trying to.
Yeah, you want to keep it quiet. All right, so okay, so there was kind of sort of a question that came in. Well, I'm going to turn it into a question. So, in your virtual reality of your visualized, middleman, utilizing retail areas to construct community food-based economy, because even clothing is food-based economy. You know, if you're making clothes with hemp or cotton, it comes from a farm. It's agricultural based.
Yes, yes, exactly.
So if somebody was new, like say there was a newbie that was going to be walking into your doors and hadn't really had a lot of experience, what would they see? What do you see your construct as, like this new person that's waking up or heard about this new building that's being built, comes down? What could this newbie expect or see? Just give us like a verbal visualization.
Well, generally, with people who are new to the indoor community farm centers themselves would be walking into is either going to be the like grocery store side of it or the coffee shop / smoothie shop side of it, which that's not really in my development range. I have a partner who's working on that. They're actually working on their own branding for that. We're going to incorporate them. And the goal is to really, if you look at the virtual model that we have, that's a rough 4-wall warehouse, come in guerrilla style, convert it, possibly patch up the roof, or more patch out the roof so you have more natural lighting coming in, utilizing solar panels, natural catch rain design on the roofing. Just that's a guerrilla, simple style, attacking a warehouse and getting food going and a place to sell it. When it comes down to like a full retail shop inside of a shopping center, there's a lot of space for that project to happen. There's a lot of different aspects that we want to include depending on how large the space is. One of those things, like I said, is a coffee / smoothie shop. And another one is going into kind of the health and wellness category of doing yoga, exercise classes. Even martial arts is a huge part of my background, so that's a huge thing of what I want to include, at least having outdoor classes, but making that a part of it. And as far as membership systems go, we still are working on all that because we really want to make it fun for people. We want to make the community involvement fun. And I'm all into video games. And so for me, it's like I have that whole spin on it, which is, again, why we're doing the 3D modeling, because we're actually building a 3D application where people can virtually walk around inside these buildings that we establish in different places. So it's a way we can actually market to new municipalities and investment groups and even countries in the future if this really does take off because the community wants this. We can let them walk through this. We can let students in Africa, let's not go that far, Detroit, see this and then promote it to their school. And then, boom, they're pushing this project and we're coming out helping them and working with schools. Like that's really my vision and dream with this. So when it comes down to a new person walking in, there's just so many different things. Like our real goal would be, it depends on what kind of building they're walking into. But if it's like the place we're working on for out in Illinois right now, which is a large outdoor shopping center, that would be basically we'd have a nature walk, a grocery store, and a health shop. And that would be the first things they're going in to see. And the nature walk is involved with having the yoga area, exercise area. We really want to change these indoor places into more of an outdoor experience. So that would be really the first thing that in my vision, that I would want people to experience when they come in is, am I outside? And then just like kind of taking a breath and just feeling like, what am I even doing here? Like, what can I do here? And just feeling like they're kind of lost but excited for the adventure.
Awesome. Good answer. Hey, Janie, do you have anything that you want to throw in there or questions?
Oh,
for
yeah,
Thrice?
I'm just visualizing as he's talking and looking, and the one thing I'm like, is this just a short bridge to nature taking over for these empty places? Okay? And let's get a bulldozer in there and remove all the asphalt and take up all the parking and recycle it. It can be ground and reheated and made into new roads. And then there's your garden areas.
Right.
There's your swales, there's your trees, there's your orchards. Right there, this old parking crap that is just inundated, and our waters are ruined by it because it gets on there. Everything's designed is to let water shed off instead of catching it, keeping our water where we need it. And so I'm visualizing bulldozers coming into these places and taking all the asphalt up, and that the schools can come in and learn. They can actually get credited courses. This could go to whatever, it could be, talk about sustainable. Now, this is where you get into the real world of this. Taking those old things, even those old clothes that you're talking about, and taking in and making something new, and not going and remining and making, again, going into that horrible practice. It's about what we have now, we have enough. And bulldozing those parking lots and have a small area. Have it bike trails. You know what I'm saying? Have it just more to stop the petrol, stop the, the shedding of water and the pollution, and doing real restoration. Bringing those soils really back to life. Because to me, those soils are screaming to get sunlight again and rainwater. I have a friend who rescues historical bulbs. And her daughters, if there is a parking lot going in, they will ask permission, and they will go in there with their shovels, and they will bring out truckloads of historical bulbs under the ground that were just going to be killed and paved over. And she has restored and rescued some amazing flowers and bulbs.
Wow. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I love that. When it comes to bulbs, and bulbs and mushrooms are fascinating to me.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Keenan Fletcher is her name. And she's an amazing fiddle violinist. What an amazing community that we have here. And her daughters too. They go out there and with their shovels, in bags, and rescue. So it's to me that I'm looking at your picture, and yes, instead of it just being sitting there rotting, can it be used for community gatherings? Like you said, your yoga or your play area for your kids, or a little preschool, or even some, acupuncture, or any, herbs and all of our healing things we do. A place that pregnant moms can get to. I was at La Leche League, a leader for years, and what a wonderful community. I don't even know if it's still around, but we would get together, every couple of weeks, and it was just awesome, us and all of our babies. And opening these things back up to nurturing. This is what you're talking about. It's about humans nurturing each other.
Yeah, 100 community.
I just want the asphalt gone.
Yeah. Well, that's a huge reason I'm into mushrooms as well. Is not only for the food and medicinal properties, but mycelium itself is a fascinating material.
The fungi. Yeah.
Like when it comes down to what you can do with heated and compressed mycelium, there's something to be said about that technology, because it really is. It's organic technology. And the fact, like, if we can learn from fungi, like I'm a huge proponent of that. I think that we will begin to steer the ship in the right direction if we can really appreciate the microbiology of our planet, as well as the importance of fungi and how that how that correlates with microbiology, like the metaphors inside of that symbiosis. Me personally, I think it's phenomenal. And you
Oh,
know,
yes.
I
How
thank
they
you.
talk
I thank
to
you for
each
all that.
other. Oh my God! It's so amazing how they talk to each other under the soil.
Yeah.
This whole world is going on under our feet.
Well,
Yeah.
you know this, the whole, so we'll just throw this out there. When I hear things, I just want the listeners to understand things. But, you know, we're taking that mycelium and they're heating it and compressing it. They can actually turn it into packaging, natural packaging. You know, they can turn it into boxes. They can turn it into natural packaging and get away from plastics and all this other stuff. But the other cool thing about it is that you just throw it into your compost. And so now you've got mycelium repopulating, you know, wherever this is composting. So think about that. Like, you're throwing away this mycelium, you know, packaging and it goes into main dumps, and you know, you've got plastics that take 500 years to decompose. You know, maybe you get enough mycelium packaging going into those dumps and it starts to eat everything up faster. So I mean, there's just a lot of unbelievable uses for mushrooms and every kind of, I mean, probably like hemp. I mean, it's probably similar to hemp. There's like so many uses. You don't know what to do with it all, right?
And that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Let's keep moving on. No. All right. So I wanted to talk to you about like your visions for like education, and I suspect that education is really going to play out with the little guys, since your focus is really about the kids and their experience and getting them kind of retooled into you know, more natural environments. So you want to talk about like the kind of education you see taking place in these structures, especially for kids?
Sure. Yes. Basically, for me, is one of the main focuses right off the bat is going to be working with education structures already in existence and just providing a service to them. Basically, working with sponsors from the area, including farmers in the area, setting up classes for having students come out and learn from this hands-on experience, because that's the biggest thing that I feel personally. Everybody learns better when you're hands-on, and also if we can make it fun and interact it with this new virtual world, I personally think that the kids of tomorrow will run away with this quicker than I can do anything. And that's just, I'm big into generations. I feel like generations are important, you know, and the younger generations are always better than the older ones when it comes to the implementation of the work, you know, when they get excited. So that's what I want. You know, when it comes to the older generations, I feel like they can accomplish work when they're not excited and they're very disciplined. They're wiser, you know, but the younger generations, that's all we have to do is just get them excited. And so if I can do that, I feel like I've accomplished what I've set out for. Like, again, I'm not trying to be a millionaire or create some massive farming organization that takes over North America. Like, I simply see an option and a possibility to create change. And if I can influence others and provide for my circle around me, then I succeeded. You know what I mean? And so when it comes down to the teaching of the kids, I want that to organically evolve however it does. And I personally want to get into involving holistic teachings with food and martial arts because of my own personal background. I'm growing up with martial arts my whole life, and also the journey I've had with food. And so that's a whole thing that we want to incorporate, as well as, again, having spaces for people who do yoga, martial arts, even dietary classes as well, like independent teachers. So when it comes down to what we want to offer for the kids, I mean, if I could have a 24/7 daycare at every decent sized facility, and then have all the schools have a once a week class or options for the students to just come over for a class during a certain period because it's all accredited and we have teachers. Like, I'm not going to teach all this. I'm not accredited, but we could have accredited teachers a part of this program. And I'm 100% wanting that kind of push to happen. And for me personally, it's not my decision. My decision was to create this and to push it and put all of my effort into it. And this is now the community. Like, I'm reaching out into the nation and saying, hey, community, we want to be proud about being North Americans. How about we feed everybody first?
Yeah, that's a super good thing.
Topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, Yeah, I mean, I did Food Not Bombs, all winter, and we provided
Wonderful.
meals. Yeah, on Monday nights because it gets really cold here, and we fed like anywhere from 60 to 100 people. I mean, every Monday, and I did all kinds of
Wonderful.
clothing drives and all kinds of stuff to keep them afloat. And myself, I live in my van, so I think those of us who are kind of on the road, out of the box. We
Yes.
have a tendency to have more of a focus towards those kinds of community endeavors. But okay, so I'm going to ask you kind of a target question. So, having kids, what do you think is the most important thing that you think that you should influence on them and teach them? What do you think is like the most important imprints to make at this point in time? I mean, for your own personal, and your kids.
I'll give you two answers for that. In life, it's having the realization that nobody really knows anything. And all you can do is be the best you can be. And that is the best way to find your purpose, is by simply being you. And with that, finding the symbiosis or the systematic relationship of the microcosm and macrocosm inside of agriculture, and using that as a metaphor to teach basic, quantum physics and philosophy to children. And those would be my two main things. Because, I mean, it's just, I wasn't sure if you were talking about life or in agriculture. And so I think that those are fundamental cornerstones of life. Purpose is huge, but I feel like purpose is a loaded question. There's an ancient teaching saying, know thyself. Well, it's kind of a loaded question, because do you really know anything that you can't perceive? And your eyes alone, when they receive the data, half of that's filtered out by the brain. So we're already starting halfway. You know what I mean? It's kind of like I look at it by all the statistics, we're kind of already kind of starting bad off. So to try to claim that you know anything, to claim that you're super intelligent or that you're this amazing person, that's, you gotta have some humility.
Well, the thing is if this life would have came with a manual, all of that would have been a lot easier. Trial by fire.
Right. That's why I feel it's so important, because I think that we've lost track of that. And again, like I don't like to have thy as the enemy. I like to say, we messed up here and you got created. Like you're just a hurt soul and it's affected because of all this hurt before, and we've just allowed it to happen instead of saying, no, I'm going to step in here, take the hurt, sacrifice a little bit, and then we'll renegotiate this. Because that's community to me. And if we can focus less on the, 1 + 2 =, well, let's all decide what it equals.
Yeah.
And focus more on the fundamentals of what does human mean. Well, Hu is a ray of light, man is the emanation of the great consciousness or creator. So I think that's a fundamental that children should learn.
Well, and then there's the other one, the womb man.
Oh yeah,
that you add on. Yeah, so you got the human, which is the man entity, right? Then you've got the womb man, which is the woman who has the womb, who's the man who has the womb.
Right.
So there's two, right? Mm-hmm. There's not just the human, there's also the womb man. I always have to tell people that too, because, gotta, be proud of your womb. Just kidding. Okay,
no,
so.
Which, I have to say, though, that to me, that is super important. And in the generation of the who's and what's it's and what you claim to what you claim, like I personally, everybody's on their own journey and you have the right to experience that. When it comes down to the end of the day, though, it is beautiful to appreciate the womb and the man. And when I say womb, I mean being a woman and the fact of the gifts that you're given. And it is different. There's a huge difference, and we should appreciate and respect those things. And if you want to experience what's being allowed to be experienced right now outside of that, I think that's beautiful too. Like, I don't know why it has to be bad in any way, just like different religions or different, I apologize, different doctrines, because religion is different than doctrine. But I think that all of the experience is beautiful. We should have our certain limits when it comes to hurting other people, but if we cannot learn to appreciate all the experiences, I don't think we can find our true purpose as individuals.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to CSA because you talked about that. And I suspect that you guys are probably, since you're doing meat birds, you've already established a CSA that's going on with selling your meat birds. But I want to just give listeners a background on CSA. It means community supported agriculture, and usually you see it in the framework of CSA boxes that usually come off farms. And so it's usually food that the farmers, and it's usually farmer pick. You know, if you're getting a box of produce, it's going to be farmer picked what they had that week. But in biodynamics, because that's where my education and went to college and for biodynamic farming and all of that, I learned that CSA actually is a branch of biodynamic farming. So it was kind of established by the biodynamic community because they wouldn't have enough money to, say, put in some crops. So what they would do is they'd go to the community and say, okay, for 17 weeks this year, during this food grow, we can give you 5 really beautiful types of vegetables every week in a box for 17 weeks for this amount. This is what we're going to need in order to grow it. So the people in the community prepay for that 17 weeks, or say for chickens, if you're doing meat birds, sometimes you pull them off. You have to slaughter them every 6 weeks. And so you ask them for the money a little bit of ahead of time. That gives you all the food and everything, and to be able to create the nice environment for your animals. And then it also pays for the farmer to be able to slaughter the animals. And then the people come, and then you give out what they had previously paid for. So it's kind of like, in some ways, you know, investing in your farmer and also investing to assure that there's going to be food that year. And the largest, I think, CSA that I worked on when I worked on this one farm is we had 70 people, but that included, we were in Noya Harbor on the California coast. So that included 2 fisher people that would go out on those mornings on Wednesday morning, and whatever they had extra for fish, you know, cod or whatever else, those were included. People could come in and they could get a fish, you know, added to their CSA vegetable boxes. We also had CSA goat milk. We had CSA eggs. We had cheese, home crafted cheese. When you have chickens, you might have some meat birds, so you can do the CSA. Some farms do lamb and beef CSA. So, you know, when you see a CSA, it's actually helping the farmer to help the community, because they may not have the cash to grow all of that. But if they see that the community is going to pay them their money in advance to get that food, then the farmer can grow much more and sustain his community. So it just, you know, sometimes grain costs money. Sometimes you need remedies that you don't have, that you can't make. You need to bring those in. Sometimes you need to get some new, you know, sheep mamas, or, you know, new chicken stock or whatever else. So, and that costs a little bit of money. So I just wanted to give people a little bit of a background kind of about CSA and how it works, and how you can be, you know, one farm, or say like you're building these foundations that you're creating. And the CSA could include, people could go online and they could say, okay, I want the box of vegetables for the next 17 weeks, pay for that. And then, oh, I see one farmer's going to have lamb. Okay, I want the CSA for the lamb. Oh, I see this farmer's bringing, you know, in this. Oh, yeah, I want to pay for CSA. So, you know, you could have like a website that has all the choices of what people want to add on. So you have your main menu, the vegetable CSA, and then you could add on, oh yeah, I need eggs this week. Oh yeah, I need all this stuff. And then people can prepay into the CSA, which supports the farmers to be able to do their work. So anyway, I was really excited to see that you guys had CSA on your website, and I think it covered mushrooms and meat birds. Meat birds are different than chickens. Hens lay eggs. Meat birds are just grown to get as fat as possible and then come to your dining room. So would you like to, Thrice, talk about CSA, or like your experience of CSA, or maybe if you're working with it right now and how that's working?
Yes, sure. Basically, when it comes down to the CSA role involvement in what we're doing, that's kind of where we started, as we were working on attempting to become a poultry-focused farm and a mushroom-focused farm at the beginning. And what we ran into was some basic litigation of some land ownership issues, and how just as far as how it all would play into us actually selling food that's produced on that property. So we had to pull out of what we were doing, and we just simply had some support from some people already in our community, not where we live, but community as in like our own network, who purchased some meat from us, and who we have sold some spores from the mushrooms to. Now we've kind of transitioned, so we're still focused on the CSA concept at the core of what we want to do as we move forward. But we have multiple properties right now that individuals own that we're going to be utilizing, and they're already working on, and we're actually working to travel to right now in the next few months. And at those properties, that's where we're going to be reestablishing what we're doing with the CSA, using meat birds as well as eggs, and producing specific vegetables, more, again, going towards that native orientation, vegetables and herbs for those specific properties, depending on where they are. We do have a family out in Missouri and a family out in Illinois right now who are really excited, and they've been participating with us as partners. And it's we have some people out here in Texas as well that reach out to us. So it's just about getting everything balanced and going. Right now, we really focus on pushing the campaign. Like, we just really announced all this when it comes down to the Indoor Farm Center campaign this last month. And we have a apparel and merchandise store where we're promoting independent individuals or companies that are focused on bringing positive change to the future, and that's called saltoferarth.life. And basically that's a way that we're now offering that people can contribute to this farm funding or agricultural crowdfunding campaign that we're doing with the farm, but they can purchase a product. So we do have a contribution area on the website, nasf.life, where you can go and contribute. We have a resale store where you can go and you can purchase products that we support, we recommend. Some of the products we had to take some products off because we no longer have it, but we will have some more products here in the future. We are in the process of moving right now, so that's why we're not doing anything as far as the CSA goes. And again, that's why we're going to be establishing it on these different properties. And we are looking at other properties in Illinois and Missouri to establish even more. But the biggest thing right now is we really have a push from a local or a municipality up in Illinois, as well as an investment group that really wants us to come out there and do the Indoor Community Farm Center. So that's where I've really been working with my tech work that I do. I do web consulting and business consulting for social media work, as well as production. And then I'm a licensed drone pilot. So I have all that going on right now as well. But yeah, so when it comes to CSA, that's kind of where we're at with everything. It is a huge part of what we want to do because the whole community funded agriculture, I mean, that's the whole point of CSA. But again, like, we're not really going to be focused on just farming. So it depends on where we are, how much is already going on in that area. They may just need an indoor community farm center for that area, and there may be enough farmers, but there's no connection to the local communities or to the local cities. Like, as far as when you have an area like Chicago or Detroit, there's a lot of towns around that area where those farm goods may not be making it all the way to the inner city.
Awesome. All right. Is there any thing that you, because we're coming into the last probably 15 minutes or 20 minutes or something, is there anything that you want to talk about, like, that we didn't cover at all? Anything that, like, sometimes, we'll come on shows and we'll have things that we're going to talk about, but then, something hits us that week that we think is really important, and it may not have anything to do with our topics, but it might be important to talk about. So is there anything that we didn't cover, or that you think is important that listeners should know, or that you would like to talk about?
Sure, I can definitely go over a few things. Basically, one of the first things is I want to really emphasize when it comes down to these indoor community farm centers, and why we're focusing on it so much right now, is we want to establish a place that different already established companies can really come together and teach community. So one thing is we have there's 2 different aquaponic companies right now that we are reaching out to, and we haven't reached out to them yet, but we've decided these are the 2 we're going to work with. And we're going to be reaching out to them and asking them, actually, as far as working in some type of program with teaching using their system. So that way, that's a part of the whole funding package that we're working on for the first center, is incorporating their system instead of us building our own kind of proprietary system or just our own system based on somebody else's. We would rather promote a North American business. So that's a huge thing that we want to really focus on emphasizing, is anybody who has something like that they see they'd like to have in a center like this, we'd love to be able to hear from them and get them involved and see what we could do, because we want to focus on these centers in different places. Right now we're focusing on kind of a straight line from Illinois, Michigan area down to Texas. So in the next few months, we're establishing, as far as our living areas, we have a travel trailer that we're working on right now, and we have a place that we're going to be moving up to in Michigan. Actually, my family's going to be moving up there, and then I'm going to be traveling basically for the next at least 3 months, if not to 6 months. We have multiple projects going on in different areas. Again, I'm doing tech stuff as well. So it's a very interesting journey that we're beginning to embark on. We've been doing this for, like I said, about 6 years, and now it's like a whole new world. And we're really excited, but it's something different. So, but with that, we're looking to work with different companies in the different areas. We want to promote local businesses that are focused in agriculture, because the reality is this, again, I really want to harp on this. 25% of our population really cares about agriculture enough to get into it and invest their time in their life. And so they need support. And so that's what we want to focus on. We don't want to compete. We don't want to create a competitive market. We really want everybody to reach out to us, and we want to reach out to as many people as we can to really create a network within these facilities and inside these renovation projects, basically. And besides that, if you want to go ahead and check out everything that we're looking to do and that we've done, you can check out nasf.life. We do have some content on our YouTube channels. There is a YouTube channel that you can connect through. Here we have the interviews and everything. It's on the website, actually on the homepage. There's an interview right now, Mycorrhizal What, which is with Dr. Richard Allen Miller, and it's where we talk about mycorrhizal relationships of everything. Basically, it's a pretty in depth, jumping over the border of existence to find out what really is and isn't, because he's really, his breadth of knowledge just goes and goes and goes. So it was a beautiful conversation. It was wonderful. But you can check that out and link to the channels. But we have just basically we've gone through a lot. We've seen a lot. We've raised ducks, chickens. We've even raised some guinea pigs. We've had we were working on a kind of we wanted to do a breeding project with mini pigs, and we had a whole thing with that. I experienced a mini pig birth. Oh my gosh, that's something. And actually, the piglet, she's now kind of like a little mascot for a pasture poultry and pig farm. And it's all about love. And it's the slogan of the farm is actually home of happy food. And it's called Mockingbird Farms. It's out in Texas. It's beautiful. Like they love their animals. It's some of the happiest people we've met. And we were so happy that they took her in, because they're never going to harvest this pig. It's a mini pig. It's a pet pig. But the pig is treated like family. It goes in and out. It does everything it wants. It hangs out with the dogs. It hangs out with the pigs. It hangs out with everything. The geese are the only thing that don't like it. It's beautiful. And we couldn't be happier that it worked out, because we couldn't facilitate the breeding of the pigs, because that was what we were looking at. I'm big on the whole concept of, we've kind of gone a little too far with the whole genetic engineering, and so like mini pigs, I think it's a little excessive, so I think that the possibility of having more like coon style species, I don't know how familiar y'all are with pigs, but there's coon and guinea hogs are beautiful homesteading animals. And so our whole concept is, there's some people who've talked about breeding mini pigs, coons, and guinea hogs, and kind of creating more variety of those style of pigs instead of the large 200, 500 pound pigs, but doing it more in a wild fashion instead of a controlled breeding setting, to kind of go back to like a natural small pig.
Yeah,
So,
those are all like really awesome concepts. Okay, so I'm going to give Jeannie some time to throw in what she wants to say. But what I always ask our people that come onto our show is if they'd like to return. We love to watch people, evolve and go through whatever they're going through, especially, working on projects. And so we'd love to have you come back on maybe sometime in September if you have availability. And if you're interested in coming back on, and then you can talk to us more about what's transpired over the last few months, how things are morphing and evolving for you. Because now we have a base of who you are. And so people like return guests because, they're familiar with them. They want to hear what their story is now, right?
yes,
So
yes.
we'd love to have you come back on. And I'm going to give Janie some time. And we have probably about 10 minutes. So Janie, do you have anything you would like to add, girl?
Well, yeah, there's just a few more questions, and there's a lot of whys. Why the indoor? Are there many indoor places that are abandoned and empty? And why north? Why up there? I mean, that has been hit. If any place that needs indoor growing, it's going to be the places you talked about, because they have had horrible winters. I don't even know if they had a spring, seriously. And if our grand solar minimum continues and our wobble and these very unusual temperature shifts and volcano, we're just in a very tipping point, tumultuous. That's my question. Why did you choose those locations? And because I don't think you're just doing this willy-nilly random. There might be some intuitive guidance there. I think you have looked at this. And are there these large open places that need to be used? That's my question. Why the location and the big places to be used?
You want to know one thing that really drives the almost like front of attack towards those directions is, I personally will tell you that there are young people right now who have access to abandoned buildings, right? Let's say one of them is a bank. And this is real right now, and I know individuals like this, where they are tempted by their own social structure to, the building's abandoned, let's just go in there and take something. And it's because nobody's watching, nobody's around, everything's abandoned. They're living in what they think is just, horrible conditions as far as like the whole world's forgot about them, and they're in our country. And if those kids go in there and steal a notepad, if they steal the wrong thing, even no matter how innocent it is, that's a federal offense. Do they know that? No, because the education's not there. Nobody cares enough to stop that. Nobody cares enough to put the signs up to say, hey, look, we know this thing. You think it's abandoned. Nothing's abandoned in the United States. That's first off. Right now, everything's owned. It's really annoying. I found that out when growing up. But just to not go on too long, but that's the big why. Is there's kids out there right now, not only are we not providing enough for them to give them things to do, but it's also we're setting them up for failure. We're leaving bear traps for children. That's what I see. And it's just okay, so we gotta fix these places. And for me personally, be a little selfish. I'm a gamer. I love paintball. I love airsoft. Half of these buildings can be converted into fun experiences because young girls and women are now into those kind of gaming experiences as well. We have virtual gaming that's on board. Imagine what we could do with the spaces that are already in existence. We don't have to build on top of, destroy and bury. No, let's just utilize what we got. We're at a mass capacity, and if
I'm
we don't
with you. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and why the location? Why north? What's your draw up there?
For me personally, it's a matter of it's some of the areas that have been hit the most, like you were saying. That's really it. Is statistically, those were things that were open. There's a larger drop in a lot of those places. If you're in Texas, you know that the economy is kind of solid everywhere. There are some places where it's lower and it's not as successful, but there's something about Texas that's sustainable. And I think it's just the kind of can-do attitude that comes from the ancient Polish, German, Hispanic. Like, there's a lot of roots and heritage here, and I think it's about like, remember Grandpappy. You know, it's you gotta prove to your elders that you're worth the salt of the earth in Texas. Hey, play on words. Life.
It's sausage and beer.
Yeah, right. You know. So, I mean, and California kind of is very political, and I would love to focus on that, but there's just so much going on out there. And I feel like Texas is something I want to utilize as a hub to help push food up north.
That's awesome.
When you can't grow those things up north. And so you have indoor facilities producing certain crops all year round that are easier to produce inside and still maintain a good nutrient value, because there is a whole issue with that when it comes to this kind of farming.
Right.
You're not going to produce the same thing as Mother Earth, you know, and that's a knowledge we need to appreciate. But you can at least create sustainable food that makes happy people, because when you create food deserts and you're feeding them packaged food that's dead, it kills their microbiome. Glyphosate in food inside the genetic structure is then consumed by you, and that is where it kills us. That is where it hurts us, is it kills your microbiome once it's in that genetic structure and you consume that food. And it's, again, I think it's fascinating because you can use glyphosate without it hurting humans. But we've made a mistake by, again, creating this enemy out of Monsanto to where they put their money into their things and then came out with this new genetic modification in order to protect their jobs, which is something you have to consider. Economy, if we can't maintain economy for each other, then we're never going to actually work as community. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm agreeing. You know, and where you're talking about where the Rust Belt and the deep neglect and sadness and just the, being forgotten, those communities, to have any kind of spark or hope or revival is wonderful. And we all, like you said, the hub, and then the lines go out. Those indoor greening are growing greens, lettuces, those kind of green things, those very intense, nutrient-dense foods. Where here, I might be able to grow fiber, and I can grow nuts, and I can grow corn, different kinds of things. You know, and it's about that communication and being able to accept one another, is that you grow that there and I grow this here, and it's all good. There's no division. There's no separation. Yeah.
So one of the things is, I think, like, I don't know, about eight or 10 years ago, I don't know, I don't like a lot of the aquaponic nutrient. I'm more, if I'm going to do aquaponics, I'd rather make my own biodynamic, microbial masses and make, compost tea that filters into the aquaponics. That's just kind of like my style. But some of the aquaponics stuff, I've had people get these trees and stuff like that for in their house, and the stuff that they give them is not biological nutrient. And that has to be something that is discussed, because your body will react even poorly to non-biological nutrient. So you want to also make sure, so anyway, I really like the concept of what Disney or Epcot Center did. They could not, the place is so big that they couldn't find enough farmers in the area to actually support, continuous all of their restaurants that they have. So now they basically pretty much grow any herb or lettuce or anything like that can be grown aquaponics without getting into meat or anything else like that. And I'm pretty sure that they use non-biological nutrient, which is a whole different thing. But now they grow all of their own stuff. So they harvest it in their aquaponic centers that are around through Epcot Center at Disneyland. They've been doing this for 10 years to actually be able to put fresh produce on plates so that they don't have to actually truck it in.
Yes, and I just want to touch real quick on that. One of the things in the virtual images and the video footage you'll see is there's these areas next to the aquaponic pools, and that's the concept of worm and black soldier fly development for feed and the composting of materials in that way. Utilizing insects and then taking those insects and feeding the fish.
Right, yes. Instead of using some pre-made package something that you have to haul in to feed your fish. Yeah.
Yes, and then there's actually some rectangular there's literally rectangular boxes on the ground with pipes going into the ground, and then there's these stand-up boxes that have some fans on the back of them, and those are dehydration trays. And so our goal is to use some of the composted feed as well as things that we grow and get from local farms to dehydrate, as well as the bugs to dehydrate and create our own pellets in-house, which creates a whole nother economy, because then that can be used for other farmers who are growing fish.
Right.
Oh,
right.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, so it's super good. Okay, so we're coming into the last few minutes. So Thrice, thanks so much for being on our show. And I'm just going to blab away here. So Thrice's website is campaign project is North America Sustainable Farms. The website is nasf.life. And that's the website, and they have all kinds of stuff on there. Go and figure out how you can support him and follow him and figure out, where he's headed next. And Jannie, you can always find her at Bloom Where You're Planted on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook, Bridgette Lynn Dolgoff. And if you go to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, you can fund us. We're 100% listener supported. We have advertising offerings now. We have a ton of heirloom seed, different size packages that help support us. We also, you can just go on there and donate. I think we have something like, I don't know how many hosts we have, but we have a lot. And we're all helping to bring, real information to the public, and all of us at Revolution Radio. And we have just like this really amazing platform that we're supported in to be able to bring amazing people to the plate. So we all can learn and gain insight together. But anyway, thanks so much for being on the show. We'll talk to you
thank
soon.
you.
Nice to meet you.
Wonderful. Bye.
Happy trails.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Thanks for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we are listener-sponsored and commercial-free, but there still are bills to pay. In order to raise some needed funds to cover the cost, our station is offering a silver special. In the continental United States for a $60 donation, or in Alaska, Hawaii, or Canada for a $70 donation, we will send you an uncirculated 2018 1-ounce pure silver Eagle. The $70 donation, the extra 10 is to cover shipping, by the way, outside of the continental United States. When making the donation, you must put Silver Eagle promo in the notes on the donation. And thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at revolution.radio and freedomslips.com. Without you, there is no us. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
This is the people's war. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We've got to stop them! They're going to kill us all! See how the trouble you've started? Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart, that But you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it. Right, you tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Revolution Radio. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts,